Hi and welcome to another introductory video on FreeCAD. In this video we'll go through the basic workflow designing a bracket to be 3D printed. Before we start, we should have the dimensions required that we intend our bracket to be, and the constraints of the tools that are going to be used for the manufacture of the product. In this case I will be using a 3D printer with a bed size of 200 by 200 mm, so my 100 by 100 mm bracket should cause no issue. This will be a simple L or R bracket with maybe an additional brace to improve the load which it can support. If there are any additional steps that you would like me to cover, please leave a comment down below this video and I will create a separate video on this. Due to the current lack of comments on my videos, you can be sure that I will see them and address any comments made. So to get started, I will create a new empty document using the tool from the top menu bar, and then I will select the Part Design Workbench from the drop down menu. In the combo view on the left hand side, there's a prompt to create a body. This can either be selected from the Task tab in the combo view or using the tool from the top menu bar. The Task tab is now prompting to create a sketch or to perform a Boolean operation. But for now, we are just looking to create a sketch. This can either be selected from the Tasks tab here or again from the top menu bar. The Combo View Tasks tab is now prompting to select a plane in which to draw our sketch. This can either be selected from the Combo View or from the 3D View area. So I'm going to select the XZ plane. This has now automatically changed the workbench over to the Sketcher workbench. The toolbars along the top, or in my case on the right hand side, have now updated to suit this workbench. We can now use these tools to draw our shape. I'm going to select a centered rectangle, selecting the origin point and dragging out. So I want to make this a square instead of a rectangle. So I want to add an equal constraint to the top and side lines. I'll hit my equal constraint on the right hand side, hit my top line and then my left line. These two will now remain equal in length. Once I'm finished with my tool, I'll just hit escape in the keyboard to come out from using it. Now I'm going to continue with my bracket shape using the polyline from the right hand menu. So I'll select my polyline tool, select where I want to start my line, I'll select where I want the next line to start, and then I'll select where I want this line to finish. Whenever I come out of the tool, I can just hit escape. Now, in order to get rid of these additional lines, I'm going to use the Trim Edge tool. So I'll select this from the right hand menu bar, and then I'll select the lines that I want to remove. Then hit escape to come out of the tool. Now, in order to make these two edges equal in length, because we want this to be a constant thickness the whole way around, we can use the equal constraint again, select it, and then select one line and select the other line. Now these two will remain equal. Now I do want this to set the thickness of this, so if I want to go and use my vertical dimension constraint, select it, select one dot and second one and put my thickness in. I want it to be 5 mm, hit enter, and then if I hit escape I'll come out of the dimension tool, and if I want to just pull this dimension out so that I can more clearly see it as we go on. Now one thing that I do want to add is I want to add like a brace up here, which will involve adding another 2 lines and then removing the line that would be left in between these 2 lines. So I will select my line tool. I'm selecting the line tool as opposed to the polyline tool this time, because I want to add a line and then add in a completely separate unlinked line. So by hitting the line tool, that is how this will work. So I'll just left click to add the line, left click to finish it, and now you see it isn't starting to start a second line automatically. because it's the line tool that I've selected. Do the same for the other line. Now I want these two to remain parallel with each other, so I'll use my parallel constraint from the menu bar, select it, select my first line, select my second line. Now these two will remain parallel with each other. Now I want to remove the line that is in between these two lines, so I'll go to my trim edge tool again, the trim edge, select my line, select my other line. Now this has actually caused an issue. So the original constraints that were on these full length lines beforehand, the constraints that were on them have only remained on one side. So this line here no longer has a horizontal constraint, and this one at the bottom no longer has a vertical constraint. And now, since they're also separate lines from each other, they will no longer stay in line. So we need to add in these additional constraints. So I'll add horizontal constraint, select that one, and then vertical constraint, I'll add that one in there. And now, in order to keep them in line, I will use the constraint point onto object constraint, select it, I'll select my line, and then I'll select the point from the other side. These two constraints together will keep these two lines in line and horizontal with each other. So, and the same, I'll just select it again, although I don't need to. I'm just going to double check to make sure that the constraint is active. Select it, select my vertical line, and then my point. Now that should be it. One thing as well is that this may not be the same thickness as this. So in order to set this to drive it off this 5mm dimension as well, I want to add a construction line in here and then equal that construction line with this end line also. So I'll switch over to my construction tool. So this is toggle construction geometry, select it. You notice all of the color of these tools have changed to blue to show that they're construction mode. I'll select my line, I'll add it, hit the dot, or hit the point, hit my line. And one thing that I want is I want this to be perpendicular with the actual line of the brace. So I'll use my perpendicular constraint, select my construction line and select the original line, and then I will select my equal constraint, select my construction line, and then select the line that I've added the dimension to. Now this will remain the same thickness as the rest of the bracket. Okay, so there's still a few things that haven't been set in the sketch as it isn't fully constrained yet, and it's really to do with this brace. So the angle has not been set and the distance down or distance across has not been set. So this can still vary on where it is located. So in order to do that, I'm just going to equal these two lines here. I could just as equally add an angle in between these two lines, but it's a bit tidier just equaling these two because I want it to be 45 degrees anyway. So I'm just going to select my equal constraint, select my top line, select my left line. Now this will always be at 45 degrees, and then I can vary the height of this. Or well, I can set the height of this. So I'm going to set my vertical dimension, select my bottom point and my top point, and I'm going to set this to 50mm. Enter and OK. Now there are a few other things that have not been set. So I can see straight off that the overall height, there's no dimensions on it, although that has an equal constraint at the top, and on the left it hasn't actually been set on what distance or what length that needs to be. So I'm going to select horizontal constraint, select top left point and top right point. I'm going to set that to 100. Okay, and now I can see the whole sketch is green, and on the left I can see it's fully constrained bar my construction line, which I've set in there to set the thickness of this part of the brace. Now the last thing to do here is to close this, and I want to pad, which is the same as extrude. So I'm going to extrude in FreeCAD, it's called pad, hit pad, and then set my thickness. So the thickness that I want this to be is 20 mils, so I'm going to type in 20, hit OK, and one thing that I want is I want to select some symmetric to plane. What this will do is this will put the center plane in the center of my model. This is just for tidiness to make it symmetrical. Generally I like to keep my sketches and my models symmetrical to the planes as much as I can. So I'm going to select that. See, it just jumps over whenever I select it. Now I could hit reverse, which will change the plane in which it's being extruded from. So at the minute it's being extruded from the back of the part coming forward, but if I hit reverse it'll be going from the front of it going back. But I'm just going to take that reversed on and keep it symmetric. So that plane is actually in the middle and it's being extruded equally in both directions. I'll hit OK. There we have our part. Okay, so now I want to add 2 holes to the top. So in order to do that, I'm going to select my top surface that I want to perform a sketch, and I'm going to select the tool from the top menu bar to create sketch. Please note that I'm still in the part design workbench. Whenever I select this, this will automatically switch me over to the sketcher workbench. Now, from the top view, I can't tell what way this part is orientated, whether my part of my bracket that's going down is on the left hand side or right hand side. So I'm just going to hold down my middle mouse button and hold it down just so that I can see, right, on the right hand side is where the bottom part of my bracket is, so my 2 holes need to go to the left hand side. Just going to select the top view there and choose. Now I can still see that I'm in construction mode as all of my tools are in blue, so I'm going to toggle the construction mode, geometry, and then select draw circle. Select the circle. I want the 2 holes to be centered, so I'm going to do it on the datum plane. Left click and drag out, and place the second one, left click and drag out. Just placing them roughly. It'll add the constraint to keep them centered on that plane, again because I've chosen to have my extrusion symmetric to the plane, and this allows me then to select to place these holes centered on this plane. So now that they're set, I'm going to hit the equal constraint, select my first circle, select my second circle. Now these 2 diameters will remain equal, and then I'm going to select my circle distance or my diameter constraint. Select one, and I want these to be 6.5 mil because to suit a 6.5 like an M6 screw, so I want to give it a wee bit of clearance as well, so I'm going to make it 6.5 mil. I'll OK that. I'll hit escape, and this will allow me to use my mouse then to drag this away just to leave it looking a bit more presentable. I'm going to zoom in, and then I want to place these. So these I want to be 20 mil away from each other, so I'm going to hit my horizontal constraint, select the center of my first circle, center of the second circle, type in 20 and hit enter. Now you can see that this is quite close to the end of the part. I want this to be 10 mil away from the part, but I won't be able to select that edge line. I'll have to use tool to get the geometry into the sketch. So I'm going to select the external geometry tool and select this end line. Just to make sure that I've got it, I've rotated the part slightly using the middle mouse button. I'm going to select that end edge, and then select my view again just to back, get it turned around a bit, back to where it was. Okay, and I'm going to hit escape, and now I want to set a horizontal distance from this point to the center circle. So I'll select my horizontal distance, select my circle, select my end point, and I want this to be 10 mil, hit enter, and that is it. Hit escape to get out of my horizontal distance constraint. I can see my sketch is fully constrained, and so I can now close out of this sketch. Hit close, see my sketch, and then I'm going to use the pocket tool. Hit pocket, and instead of having this going through it at a certain dimension, I just want this to go through everything. So I'm going to drop this down and go down to through all, because if there is something in the way, I want it to go through it as well. That's through all, hit OK. That's my 2 holes created. I have also 2 holes that I want to create on the back, so I'm going to rotate this round, select my back surface. I'm still in Part Design Workbench, or I'm back to the Part Design Workbench. I'm going to create another sketch. And again, I don't know what way the part's orientated, so I'm just going to use my middle mouse button just to check. I can see my bottom of my brackets on the left hand side, so I'm going to select my view again. And then the same as we did with the other 2 holes, I'm going to my circle tool on the center line, create a circle, center line, create a circle. I'm going to use my equal constraint, select my first circle, select my second circle. I'm horizontal constraint, select the center point of first, second point of the second. I want these to be 75 mil away from each other. No, I'm going to change that to 50 mil, that's too wide. Hit escape, double click on my dimension, hit 50 instead, hit enter. Then I want this to be 25 mil away from the center. Horizontal constraint, center of the circle, center of the center plane, 25, enter. Yep. And now this is where the through all will make more sense. So whenever I close out of this and create a pocket from the sketch, the top bar, and I'm going to change the type from dimension to through all. And now we can see it's also going through this brace. Whenever I'm just in dimension, this will only go through as far as the dimension of set. I could increase this so that it goes through both of them as well, but it's a bit more robust if I just say through all. So it won't require me to know what distance that is. I know that it's to go through everything, so I'm just going to go back into this by left clicking it, right clicking it, and then changing the dimension over to through all. Hitting OK, and that's those 2 holes created. This secondary hole, the main holes are here for the screw to fit through, but there won't be a screw really going through this one. This hole through the brace is actually going to be used for the likes of a screwdriver to fit through. It can be larger than what we need for the screw, so I want to make this hole bigger, but it's at an angle. I can't just create, if I were to create a hole based off that plane, it would end up being at the wrong angle to go to this hole. So I want it to be in line with this hole, but a bigger hole. So in order to do that, I'm going to select the surface that I want to sketch, go to create a sketch. I'm going to rotate this a bit so that I know how it's sitting. I want it based around this hole, so since I want to pick up on this hole, I'll need to get the external reference again, so I'm going to use this tool for external geometry and select the original hole. Now what that'll do is that'll allow me to pick up on this center point of this original circle. I'll go to my circle tool, select that point, and drag this out. And I want this hole to be 10 mil, because I want it to be a bit bigger than the original to suit the screwdriver. So I'll go to my diameter tool, select my new circle. Actually, I'll change it to 12 mil, just a wee bit bigger. Yep, that seems alright. It's green, it's fully constrained, it's fully placed. I'm just going to hit close. Now I'm going to go up to pocket up at the top menu bar in the Part Design Workbench, hit pocket, and again I'm going to go to through all for the type, but I'm going to pay particular attention to the direction that this extrusion or this pocket is going to be created. So I can see here that this is actually creating the original, making the original hole that I drew larger, which is what I don't want. I still want it to be 6.5 mil. I want this hole to be larger. Since we've drawn this on the inner face, I can just hit reverse. Now you can see that the hole on the brace is larger, where the original hole still remains at the same size. So now I'm just going to hit OK. And now that part has been created, or that hole has been created. Okay, so now I want to tidy up this part. So I want to add in a couple of chamfers and a couple of rounds on the corners. So first of all, I'll add in my chamfers. So I'm just going to select my holes. And I will add a chamfer. And I will put these in, let's say about 3mm. No, I'm going to bring that down to 2mm. Add a chamfer, right click, hit 2 and hit enter. That looks okay. And then adding in a few rounds. So here I am going to highlight my 4 ends while holding control to make sure that I select all of them, and hit the round tool. I'm going to put this up to maybe 5mm, see how that looks, and that looks okay. Now what's good about creating something parametrically is that I believe that these holes look a bit large in comparison to these holes. So I'm going to go back to that extrude. Yeah, they're going to go in here. And right click and go into edit sketch. So here it looks like that I haven't set the diameter of the circles. So I'm just going to use my diameter constraint, select a circle. See, it's near 8mm, so I'm going to change this to 6.5 and hit OK. And now, because of the way that I've constrained everything, everything will still stay where it needs to stay. So I'm just going to hit close, and then I can go back out, hit my fillet, hit spacebar, everything back up. And now everything still stays in place. And that is my part completed. Right, now I just need to create an STL file to send it to my 3D printing software. So I'll just go to File, go to Export. Oh, I need to select my body, then go to File, Export, and place it where I want. So I want 3D print in dash bracket .stl, hit save, and that will have saved my part. Now the software that I use for my 3D printer is Prusa Slicer. This is a fork of the Slicer application, which I believe is open source. So to get started in here, I'm just going to go to add part, go to where I've saved my part, and I've saved it as 3D printed bracket. Open that. Then I'm going to select a face to lay it flat on. Select my face and make sure that it's sitting okay. Due to how I have drawn this, I don't believe I'll require any supports. Anything that's overhanging is done as a circle, and generally circles don't need to have supports because there's not much overhang with them. Hopefully that'll be okay. This hole is probably a bit suspicious because it's more of an oval shape because of the angle that it has been put through it. But we'll see how it goes. I'll just go to slice now. I have some settings already pre-configured, and then I can export this and print. It should take 1 hour and 41 minutes. Though it's quite low quality. So we'll see how it is after. Hey, thanks for watching this video and getting started with FreeCAD, creating a bracket for 3D printing. Well, I hope you found it helpful, and if you have any questions or feedback, please let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more FreeCAD tutorials.